The Curse of the Adinkra Mask. Chapter 1. The Discovery. The sun was high, casting a golden hue over the bustling marketplace of Kumasi. The air was thick with the scent of fresh fruits, spices, and the constant hum of activity. Vendors called out to passers-by, offering their wares, while children darted through the crowd, laughing and playing. Among the hustle and bustle, an investigative journalist, me, found herself walking aimlessly, not yet knowing what story she was about to uncover. I had come to Kumasi looking for a story, but I never expected to find one like this. My eyes scanned the market stalls, filled with trinkets and artifacts, many from the Ashanti kingdom. The people were selling their crafts, woven baskets, colourful beads, carved wooden figures. But one stall caught my attention. It was tucked in a corner, almost hidden, as though it were waiting for someone. The items on display were not the usual tourist souvenirs. They were ancient, seemingly untouched by time. The elderly merchant behind the stall noticed my gaze and smiled. It was a slow, deliberate smile, like he knew something I didn't.
"Ah, you have the eyes of a true seeker,"
he rasped, his voice carrying an almost mystical weight.
"You have found the Adinkra mask, a relic of the Ashanti kingdom. Powerful, but cursed."
I raised an eyebrow, unsure whether he was playing some kind of game with me. "The Adinkra mask?" I asked, leaning in to get a closer look at the intricately carved mask resting on the table. Its eyes, dark and unblinking, seemed to follow me as I moved. He nodded solemnly.
"This mask holds the soul of a forgotten king, one whose wrath still lingers, seeking retribution for an ancient wrong."
I couldn't help but chuckle nervously, half amused, half intrigued. A curse? Really?
"Believe what you will, my friend.
The merchant continued, his voice lowering.
Some things are better left untouched, but I see you're a journalist, always chasing the truth. Just be careful what truths you seek. The price can be high."
Something about his words unsettled me, but my curiosity outweighed my hesitation. This was the kind of story I had been looking for, the kind that would make headlines. The legend, the history, the mystery, it was all too tempting. Without a second thought, I handed over the money and took the mask. As I walked away, I felt an odd shiver run down my spine. It was as though the mask was alive, waiting for me to unravel its secrets. That night, I sat at my desk staring at the mask. The room was dimly lit, save for the glow of my desk lamp. The mask sat there, on the corner of the desk, its unblinking eyes fixed on me. I could feel an unsettling presence in the room, a heaviness in the air that I couldn't explain. I tried to push the feeling aside, but as I sat there, my mind raced. The curse, the legend. It seemed ridiculous, but what if there was something to it? I shook my head. It's just a mask, I told myself, an artifact, a relic, nothing more. But I couldn't shake the feeling that it was more than just a mask. There was something wrong about it. My thoughts were interrupted by the sound of my phone ringing. "Hello," I answered, trying to sound calm. It was my colleague, Marcus. "You won't believe it," he said, his voice shaky. "I just got a call. Marcus is dead." Just like that. They found him collapsed in his office. No warning, no explanation. He was fine yesterday. I froze, the phone nearly slipping from my hand. What? No, this doesn't make sense. I just saw him. We were talking about the project. How could he? "I don't know," Marcus interrupted, his voice trembling. "He was just gone, just like that. No signs, no nothing." I felt a cold sweat form on the back of my neck. The chill that had settled over me since I'd taken the mask seemed to intensify. Could it be? Could the mask have something to do with this? I hung up the phone, my mind racing. There was no way to make sense of it, but I couldn't help but wonder. The mask? Had it really begun to exert its power? Was this just the beginning? The next few days were a blur. The news of Marcus's sudden death spread quickly, but no one seemed able to explain it. I couldn't stop thinking about the mask, about the merchant's words. Some things are better left untouched. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at the mask again. The room felt unnaturally still, the silence pressing in on me. My breath came in shallow bursts as I tried to concentrate, to dismiss the idea that the mask could have any power over me. But something was pulling at me, a force I couldn't explain. I leaned forward and picked up the mask, studying the intricate carvings, the symbols that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. The symbols were familiar, Adinkra symbols, each one carrying a deeper meaning, strength, wisdom, courage. But there was something else here, something darker. Just as I was about to set the mask down, I heard a faint sound, something like a whisper, low and rhythmic. It came from the direction of the mask, though it didn't seem to be coming from the mask itself. It was as though the air had become charged, vibrating with some unseen energy. I froze. Was I hearing things? The whisper seemed to grow louder, more urgent. My fingers trembled as I set the mask down, but as soon as I did, I felt a sudden sharp chill in the air. The whisper stopped abruptly. My heart pounded in my chest. I could feel my pulse in my ears, the sense of being watched creeping up my spine. I tried to shake it off, but the unease lingered. The next morning I woke with a start, the remnants of a strange dream clinging to the edges of my consciousness. I couldn't remember the details, but the images were vivid. The mask, the king's face, ancient rituals, and something darker, something I couldn't quite place. I shook my head, pushing the thought away. It was just a dream. But when I looked across the room, my stomach dropped. The mask, sitting on the desk just hours before, was no longer where I had left it. It had moved. It was staring back at me, as if it had shifted on its own. I stood frozen, my breath catching in my throat. The room suddenly felt too small, too suffocating. What was happening? I was no longer sure if this was just a coincidence or something much worse. And then, just as I was about to reach for the mask, I heard a loud crash from the other side of the room, a book falling from the shelf. I turned to look, but when I looked back at the mask, it was gone. I felt a surge of panic. I was in too deep now. The curse had already begun.